right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. Three reviews this week. Up first is Crayola Scoot. Now, if you recall, we actually, by we I mean Petty Fan, had an I hesitate to say extended play session. I mean, it was about an hour. Anyway, the point of order is we did a bit of a showcase of this game in lieu of an actual episode because, well, things happened, or rather, didn't happen, or, the guest got sick. So,
Yep.
things got delayed. This isn't really the time or place to talk about. But anyway, the point is we've showcased this game before. We've kind of talked about it, but we did hold off. But once again, it's like if you want a more in-depth summary of the mechanics and stuff, go watch our previous video on this. It's like,
Also, existential questions on what the fuck is going on.
Yes. Anyway, but in brief, Crayola Scoot is really an X plus Y equals to Z game. That is to say, it is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater plus Splatoon, and it equals out to Crayola Scoot.
You forgot a plus actual Crayola branding because someone paid for some licensing there.
Well, I'm talking about the actual games. It's homaging, let's say.
Yeah, you got like a not Razer brand, but might as well be Scooter, and you're some kind of weird crayon kid that can spread ink, crayon wax, or some other pigmented substance with a Crayola branding all over the area that you're scooting.
Right, and the goal of the game is to sometimes color the arena your color. I say sometimes because there's actually about 6 or 7 game modes to this. If I'm remembering correctly. Hang on. I hate it when I don't have the proper notes up.
Hold on, I can get to the arena thing 1 second.
Well, no. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about game types.
Clearly, the best mode is Clam Blitz.
Now, mind you, some of the game modes here are single and team events. Like, for example, what they call the color frenzy. That's you leave your ink, Crayola wax,
pigment.
Yeah, it's like you leave your substance, let's say, on the arena.
Of all the options you could have chose, I think substance sounds the worst.
I'm like, look, we don't know what the fuck this shit is.
Fair enough.
I'm like, here's the thing. This game does not have deep lore like Splatoon does.
Yeah, Crayola brand color gook.
Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about here, Color Frenzy comes in the single and team variants. It's like, but like technically these are the same mode, not different modes. Like, sometimes on the branding of these games, they'll post extra things that are a variant of a thing.
Yeah,
it's
like
one of those.
What counts as a mode?
Yeah, it's like, here it's just counting the base, no variance. So that's actually good. Anyway, you've got Crazy Crayons, which is, well, you collect the most crayons, up to 5 if I'm recalling correctly, before other people. Splatter Tag, it operates like a game of tag. You either run away or you tag the others. Scoot mode, which, as I mentioned, back on Wednesday, this is their version of horse. And Trick Run, which is, well, you do the most tricks to get the most score to win that event. Like I said, in terms of what's here in content-wise, both in terms of modes and mechanics, it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or Dave Mirra's BMX. It's like any sort of extreme sports game from about the PlayStation 2 era will fit the bill.
You're going around and pressing buttons or wiggling control sticks to do tricks.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes one of the more unusual things about this game. And there are many unusual things about this game, if you haven't noticed.
We've discussed them also.
Yes, but
what even are you?
Yes. That aside, I'm getting more to the fact that they made a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater clone in the year of 2018. Yeah, this game actually got released October 16th of 2018. We're reviewing it now partially because the review queue was filled with other things, and partially because it actually took a while to get these codes, because we were supposed to do an interview about this game at one point, but that fell through. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Also, a bit of a notation for the if you buy the Steam version of this game, you do need a controller to play this game. It isn't a recommend. The game will not start unless you do you pass the controller prompts.
Luckily, though, it will work with a PlayStation 4 controller as well as an Xbox controller. I don't know about a Switch Pro controller, though.
It should work with a Switch.
If an Xbox One controller works, a Switch Pro controller will probably work.
Yeah, it's like, I think I saw configurations for all three in there. Keep in mind, this is a 2018 game, so it should have Pro controller support. Anyway, getting back to the whole, they made a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game in 2018. It's like...
when they hadn't been particularly popular for about 10 years.
Yeah. And even then, they were kind of tapering off about the Xbox 360 era. Point is, this is a game that was once pretty commonplace on the gaming scene, and if it were stacked up against, the stuff that was releasing 10 years ago, this game probably would have been lost in the shuffle without the color gimmick. Mm-hmm. As it is right now, this game actually stands out a lot more because, well, you really, they don't make them like this anymore. Mm-hmm. Outside of the odd or very odd creation like this. It's like, you really can't get your extreme sports fix on anything modern unless we're talking like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on one hand, it's not as popular of a format as it used to be, and on the other hand, the market is a lot less crowded.
So it's got that going for it. It's just on balance, so to speak. It's like the mechanics are sound. It's just they're pretty simplistic. Once again, we have a bit of a detailed breakdown in our previous video, so if you want the details, go watch that. But it's like, as far as the color gimmick goes, once again, it does a nice imitation of Splatoon, attuned to extreme sports. It's like, instead of using an ink cannon or whatever to spray the goo, you do tricks and you boost.
It is ejected from many orifices, apparently. God.
Yeah, it's like, I am supremely disappointed the interview never happened because there's just so many questions.
Yeah, which party wanted to do this? Was it Crayola, or was it
Outright?
The game maker?
Yeah, it's like,
hey, can we put Crayola in this?
Oh, like I said, that they, things fell through because their own inexperience, and it's like I can't really get into it, or rather, it's kind of a sad story. It's like there's nothing preventing me from talking about it. It's just it's not really what this thing is about. Anyway, in terms of arenas and or skate parks, if you will, scooter parks.
I
I think they're still called skate parks.
Yeah, though, if you show up to a skate park on a scooter, you might actually get killed.
I mean, unless you are actually good at it.
Yeah.
You might actually get killed.
Yeah. You do. Yeah. You have 12 parks spread across 3 worlds. So yeah, that's 4 parks per world. And it's like you don't have access to everything. Your super goal as it is to climb the ranks, become the best Crayola scooter there ever was. And you do that by playing events, and then you challenge a quote-unquote legend, which is one of the other avatars. You don't get to play as those unless you go into arcade mode. Arcade mode is where you can freely play the various modes, and where you can also do multiplayer. Sadly, the multiplayer is local only. Probably less of an issue on, say, the Nintendo Switch, but once again, on the PC, it's an unfortunate limitation. And that being said, multiplayer is very clearly a side attraction. Literally, like, you have to go over to the side to access it. But it's nice that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the multiplayer in like the Tony Hawk games being pretty they were all right, but single player was definitely the draw. Anyway, you also get unlockables by going through the events. You get currency, and you use that to unlock various helmets, boots, and T-shirts. Once again, this is kind of showing that this is a game out of time, because, in modern parlance, this is the kind of stuff that would be carved out and available as microtransactions. It's like, I'm pleased to report there is nary a microtransaction to be seen. There is no DLC, paid or otherwise. I'm like, I can't say definitively that there's going to be any. Actually, no, I can say that definitively that there's going to be no DLC, because I know for a fact that the development team that made this game broke apart. That's the reason why the interview fell through. It's like I got a note from the PR people saying the development team has split up and are working on other projects, so they couldn't talk about this game anymore. So yeah, what you see is what you get, which is kind of how it used to work. Now,
back in ye olden times.
Indeed. And in terms of graphics, it's like they're functional, I guess. Admittedly, the arenas are pretty bland, but I think that's because they're going for the canvas effect. And that being said, this game is colorful, but not as colorful as you'd expect, given a Crayola game. Like, I think there's about 9 colors to choose from.
Something like that.
It's like there's no box of 64 colors here. And you don't get to choose as certain colors at all. Like, and yes, I know. They're not technically colors, but we're not getting into semantics. You can't white, black, brown, that kind of thing. There's none of that. They're the neon bright sort of colors.
Though you do get red, and it's rather horrifying.
I was gonna say there is red, and it's only a little bit magenta-y.
Still kind of horrifying.
Yeah. Yes, and like, there's no really good green in this game. Like, we've got a kind of a sea green going
Well,
here.
it's like
Maybe
there's a regular green, but I think it's only for the splat target thing or the tag thing.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, that's definitely the kind of thing I would hope, if this game ever got a sequel, see that expanded. But overall, this game is pretty solid. I think the other thing I would really have to warn about is the difficulty.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because this game is surprisingly tough.
Yeah, for a game that's supposed to be aimed at kids. Holy crap.
Yeah. And that doesn't get, and of course it ratchets up the more you go. It's very much, a progression skill curve kind of deal. Like, it's like, point is, if your kids are throwing the controller across the room because of this game, don't be surprised. Now, that being said, there are variable difficulties from 1 star to 3 star, easy to difficult. Easy, you can get by. Difficult, like, some of those are really fucking difficult. Due to various reasons. Let's see. The music, probably one of the biggest disappointments of the entire package. I don't know. Like, the music's some kind of generic kids stuff. I really, it's all right, but I don't know. I'm just used to extreme sports games having a licensed soundtrack. It's like, granted, I would never expect, like, something as eclectic as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack and something like Crayola Scoop, but it's like, this stuff is really bland and unmemorable. So it goes. Pricing. So I think here's our biggest point of contention, or at least between us, because so the digital version of this goes for $30, and the physical edition of this is regularly priced at $40. The Nintendo Switch version on Amazon is going for $20 at this exact moment in time. Don't know how much that's going to last. And the PlayStation 4 is going the same as the digital. That happens with physical editions. That happens with the digital things. Anyway, we're going to rate it on base price here. I will
30
say,
isn't too bad if you're into slightly awkward skatey games.
Yeah, I will say, as a budget retail release, this is fine. I think it's got enough content and difficulty to justify a $30 or $40 price tag. It's just, if you're not into extreme sports or splatooning, let's call it, you might want to look elsewhere. Anyway, Petty Fan, you may proceed with your point.
I was gonna say the controls really aren't, that great. Like, it's really hard to actually play the game. And also, most of the content is just kind of repetitive and grindy. Besides the AI just borderline cheating. So it's like, if it was down to like 15, I'd be more inclined to give it a look. But like, I think 30 is a bit much. But again, personal opinion and all that.
Right. So basically, we got a split here. and we only got 2 copies of the game because, and yeah, none of our cohorts are spending $30 on this.
Yeah, sorry. I might if it was a not this kind of game, but this kind of game doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, I'm not that one about sports games myself, so
yeah, it's like the thing is, I actually rather like this kind of game, and I find it despairing that you can't access any of the greats on modern consoles. It's like you can't play any Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game or any Tony Hawk's game outside of the 5th one on the current consoles, unless they've done a backwards compatibility thing that I missed.
If they did, what they're probably doing is like the PlayStation Now thing where you can stream it. But I haven't looked much into that service personally, so...
Yeah, but anyway, so... Yeah, I it's nice that there's a game that's keeping this kind of style alive, kind of. It's like, it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but it's also doing the Splatoon thing. Its own uniqueness is that combination. Not so much in the individual sum parts. So ultimately, I'd say it's a pretty solid game, but if you give it a miss, you're not really losing out on a grand experience either. Right. Any other final thoughts on Crayola Scoot here?
Not really. It's all right. I just kind of wish there was more varied content and the controls weren't utter crap.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate, but so it goes. Anyway, that'll about do it for this game. Be sure to tune in after the break, as we'll be reviewing Super Captain 3D.